read that alternate particular role.
You know, that's a lot.
You can carry it.
It doesn't have much.
It was interesting. We're running Bell out there. We take her down.
Okay, thank you, Patty. It is 7 p.m., so we'll get the meeting started. I'd like to thank everybody here around the table, council members, for coming. We have a couple items that we do need to discuss. Hopefully, the meeting will be very quick tonight. But with that in mind, Patty, the roll call, please.
Mr. Ackerman.
Here.
Mr. Bear.
Here.
Mr. Baker.
Here.
Mrs. Nagy.
Here.
Mr. Irwin.
Here.
Mrs. Canarium. Here. Mr. Smith.
Here.
Solicitor Valentine will be by phone. And Mayor Smith.
Here. And you're there, right, Mark? He was, Mark? I don't think I have you muted. Well, he was on there. I talked to him, so if hopefully he's, okay, so any guests, comments? Yes, Jeff.
Yes, it's about that time of year to do the Christmas lights, and just wonder if we're gonna keep the ones we have and put them up this year. That replace the bulbs and make sure that they're working, so they can put them up in November. Just wondering what the council's plans are.
Tonight, Jeff, we have 3 items, and that would be off of our agenda. What I would suggest, Patty, if you could put the Christmas lights on the Finance Committee meeting on October 3rd, and we could discuss it then. Is that okay, Jeff? And we'll
Yeah,
decide,
that's fine.
because we're a little bit out of bounds here, I think, tonight, if we discuss that based on our agenda.
Okay,
Okay?
thanks.
Thank you. So just come to the Finance Committee meeting and we'll put it on that list. Any other guests? Connie, public comment? Okay, well then let's start off with our first item. Brian, you have a presentation to make.
I was just.
Go ahead.
sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Just was kind of curious. Ben, my son, works with me down there. His table land program is ended. So what I was wondering if we could get him back possibly for another month or two to kind of help wrap the season up, basically. We still have some mowing to do. He's been a tremendous help with the signs, everything. He's been a tremendous help. So I'm just wondering if we could get him back for a month or so just to kind of wrap things up before the snow flies.
We had talked and you had said till the end of October.
Yeah, whatever you guys decide, that's whatever you want to give him, that's fine. I mean, anything will help us.
And we're gonna have these trail signs to put up,
We have,
around 100 of them.
Tom has some signs. We got new signs for Salisbury Street. We're waiting on poles. We got Sherman Street signs. We got a lot of signage to put up, plus get ready for winter. So if we could get him back, I mean, that would be tremendous if we could have him.
Karen.
Mark, are you there?
Yep.
I don't want anybody to say anything about nepotism. I mean, if this is a new hire, temporary position, I don't want people to say, well, we didn't even know about that. Do we have a responsibility to advertise? The second concern I have is, do we have an MOU from the union that they're okay with it since JR is only part-time? I don't want a grievance filed against us that we're taking work from him. Do we have those things, a job description and like a layout of the 5 weeks if we do pull him back, like by week, what the projects are that we hope to accomplish with the addition of a third person? Those are my 3 main questions, since it didn't go to personnel.
So just to speak to that, I'll do them kind of backwards. The first thing that I would mention is I don't know whether or not that would be considered a new position because it's going to change the amount the borough's paying him. In other words, he was paid for so many hours a week and Tableland paid him. It's quite possible this is considered a new position. If it is considered a new position, we would have to, even if it's temporary, we would recognize it. I will say that. Now, further than that, I do think there's a couple things. If council chooses to extend his time, there are a few things we should do with the union. And the first one is both JR and Brian, which, I'm sure Brian will do it because he's the one bringing it up. But we should get from both of those in writing that they are okay with that and him getting that time. And the reason for that is when that contract was negotiated, we had included a seasonal worker, and it started with the contract before the current CBA. And we've expanded the time of what a seasonal worker can get. But one of the questions I would have is to make sure we don't go over that seasonal worker time. And if we do, that there's no issue from anybody in the union with that being hired. And this is why I say that. The whole point of the CBA, and from the protection of the employee standpoint, and this has to be recognized by the borough, is that we're not taking work away from anybody who's in that bargaining unit. Like, for example, and I'll use Patty because this is the streets and not in the office, but if the borough hired somebody to assist Patty, but it took away, like, let's say Patty was only working 38 hours or 36 hours a week, they have a reasonable grievance that regular time, overtime isn't as easy to argue, but that regular time should have went to whomever was working, in that role and was part of the bargaining unit first. So we just want to make sure that we have that labeled and that he fits in the seasonal worker end. Those are the concerns I would have. I'm not saying council can't do it, but I'm saying if they do it, we have to do it right.
The thing, can I say something?
Sure.
Just saying, if this, what I'm looking at is not a full 36 hours like JR has, even 30 hours a week to help us. That's what I'm looking at. And I'm not saying it because he's my son. I'm saying it because he helps us. And it is a big help with the signs, stuff like that. I get it with everything being all legal and legit. That's absolutely fine. But I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes. I'm just trying to get some extra help.
And I wasn't trying to say that you were, but what I want to be careful of is, like with JR, for example, I don't know how many hours he works a week.
He gets 36.
But if he works less than like the full-time amount of hours, he has a bargaining unit right to have his hours completed. In other words, to be full-time, even if it's for a short period of time, before we hire an additional. Now, we do have a seasonal worker provision, but I don't know how many hours we have on that off the top of my head, to be quite honest.
Well, Brian had just indicated that JR has signed off on this. He would be okay having Brian's son, Ben, stay on, say, till the end of October. The other advantage is he is trained. He does know what to do. He's worked here all summer. I've heard no complaints about him. I think he's a hard-working individual. But then the problem would be, do we have to advertise it, and is it a new position? And that's why, I'm glad, Mark, you were able to join us, at least via phone, to give us some guidance on this. Because personally, I would support having him work till the end of October. But then what do we do as far as advertising the position? And, it's hard to find workers anymore to do anything. Pretty much everybody's looking for workers. But that's what we have to decide, Mark. I guess we're looking at you for guidance. If you think it's doable, if not, then we'll have to advertise it.
One of the worst parts about it, to be quite frank, is the fact, even if you do advertise it, because there is a decent argument it's an additional or new position, even if you do advertise it, you're probably not going to get anybody else apply.
Right. But at least we will have gone through the right steps. That's all I want. And I want to make sure you've talked to the union to make sure that they're okay with it.
Yeah, and all I would do is I would just give, and I would do it with the union's blessing, and I would send it through Patty, just a very short paragraph for JR and Brian to sign so we can have it dated, and that way we're all on the understanding.
Right.
And that way there's no question, and I'm not saying that it would happen, but there's always that chance. And I'll tell you from years past, and Jeff was on council and we had some interesting issues with that. From years past, I don't want to go back down the Shive or whatever the heck his name was, trail, the former union rep,
So are you recommending, Mark, that we should advertise this? Or, I mean, if there's no other way, obviously we want to be on the right side of the law and we're interested in
I
100%
I
transparency.
think from a legal standpoint, it would be good if we'd advertise it. If they can get it in the paper soon enough, which is a big if, and Patty's probably shaking her head on that, it is possible. We only need to do it for 7 days by law. It is possible to get it advertised and to have it voted on at the regular meeting. I know that cuts out a week or two of work, but that could be extended because you could vote for whatever period of time that Brian believes is needed. But I would be more comfortable if we advertised it just for that reason, because what's going to happen is, and I'll just say this publicly, that if we don't advertise it, it's not just because he's related to Brian, it's because he was working there and all of a sudden he's on longer and he's paid fully by the borough. I know that question's going to come up in a meeting, and it's a lot safer to advertise it, move forward, than it is to not advertise it and then have a situation.
Okay, let me jump in here, Mark. Does anybody here around the table object then that we go ahead and advertise the position with the intent of hiring someone? If we get other applicants, then we'll have to have the personnel committee meet with them and make a decision. But is there anybody opposed to that premise, that at least we go ahead, and then if not, I'll ask for a motion from someone that we go ahead and ask Patty to get this done as expeditiously as possible, that we advertise the position for.
What should be in the motion is you need to set the hourly rate, the number of hours per week, and a reasonable scope. So, Brian said about, I know they're at the end of October originally, then he said maybe a little bit longer. Whatever that scope of time is, we should put in the ad so that it's known, and so that people don't think this is like a full-time or a permanent position.
Okay, 8 weeks.
That's fine.
Okay, let's say, please speak up. I'm just trying to move this along here. Hold on, we'll get you next. Okay, but hold on. 8 weeks and then 30 hours a week.
That's fine.
And then he would be getting $12 an hour. Those would be the parameters. And then as far as, can you give us some job descriptions? Mowing, helping put signs up?
He would help us finish mowing for the season. He would put signs up, help us get equipment ready for the winter. There's lots to do. I mean, I got a whole list of stuff that we
You think 8 weeks would be that way? We're not under a time?
That'd be
Okay.
fine.
Karen did offer to make that motion if you include everything that was discussed in
So
there.
$12, I make the motion, $12 an hour, 30 hours per week, field labor, for up to 8 weeks, doing items such as installing signage, mowing, equipment prep, et cetera, as
Clean up.
determined by the foreman.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Tom. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Unanimous. So Patty, we can work on that first thing tomorrow morning and
And the
try.
interested parties should have their application in Patty, by 3:00 on the Monday before the meeting, or how do you want to do it?
Yeah, that would be fine, I guess.
Are you gonna require them, will they have to do any, like, do they need a driver's license? Do they have to do any background checks, anything? I mean, I doubt we're gonna get any other applicants, but I'm just wondering.
You just must have a Pennsylvania driver's
They need a
license.
valid driver's
I
license.
mean, that would be something that, I don't think. Okay, this has been taken care of. Mr. Mayor, you have a report for us.
Yes, I do. Well, myself and Jeff went and we met with Salisbury. We met with their mayor and their president of their board. And we discussed police protection for Salisbury. That was just a discussion. They haven't taken anything yet to their council. We obviously are bringing it here tonight to you guys. They're not sure how much is in their budget or how much they'd be willing to spend, but we came up with a number that we seemed that we could agree on at $60 an hour. Now, whether that is 2 hours a week or 22 hours a week, or I'm not sure what the numbers that they're budgeting, you know. I feel that with 2 officers working at the same time, we can make this work. I think it's beneficial for the borough to have that second officer spend, even if it's an hour or 2 hours a shift in Salisbury, you know, getting compensated $60 an hour. You know, that just, it benefits us. I feel that 60 is a fair price. According to the wages that we pay, I understand that insurances have gone up, gas has gone up, you know, tires, everything, but I still feel that we can make money at $60 an hour, and we're not putting Salisbury in a bad spot financially. So I just wanted to bring it to you, get thoughts. You know, I'm open to doing it. That's just my opinion, but I wanted to bring it to council and hear council's thoughts.
Let me jump in and then we'll go around the table. I think, Shane will correct me if I'm wrong, I think what we're asking for tonight is, assuming council would agree, we're not really consummating the deal yet, but the motion, or what I think Salisbury was looking towards us for, is, Shane said, the $60 amount. And are we willing to say, yes, we're willing to go forward, potentially to provide protection there? Our intention is to continue the negotiations in good faith, that if they come back and accept, because see, their council would have to accept the $60, and if we can make it work, but it would be just that we can move forward in good faith, that we have a majority here that would be willing to take the next step and let them go back, their representatives.
Jeff?
Yes, sir.
Is what Shane presented and what you're saying is, I think, and Patty can correct me if I'm wrong, I think they were paying around $40 or $45 an hour a few years ago. Of course, everything has went up, but I think what you're saying is they need a number so that they can base an hourly rate on like a number of hours from a budget standpoint. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
And like I said, with the intent that we intend, if assuming we can work together, that the pledge is tonight that we would then provide the coverage, subject to future negotiations, I guess would be the way you'd say it.
I'll add one other thing. We also talked about an open-ended contract to where either side could get out of the deal at any time for any reason.
Yeah, so we're not,
Which is pretty much what we had before, except there was what, a 60-day notice before, I think, 30 or 60 days. So we could remove that and just use the same contract if it gets approved.
well, you know, let's go ring around the rosy here. Terry, let's hear your thoughts on it. We'll go to Karen. I'll give mine, Ron. We'll just let everybody here give their concerns or what they want to do with this situation. Go ahead, Terry.
I mean, I'll back what Shane says. If we got the police to cover the shifts that we need and Shane thinks we can work it out, I'm all for it.
Karen?
The mayor has the most knowledge, and I will support whatever he suggests.
Of course, I'll support Shane and the negotiations moving forward. Ron?
I support you guys, but we're not, my thing is, everybody has their own opinion. My thing is, we're not giving our own town the hours protection that we should, let alone going to another town.
Tom?
Yeah, I have no problem as long as we have an officer here. One up there is fine, but as long as we're covered,
Maybe the other thing is,
because we have two here anyhow.
we could say, like, if we know for a fact that we're gonna get 15, 20 hours out of our people, then send somebody up here for an hour or two, but if not, because things aren't working out well with them anyhow, so
Well,
that's all I can say.
no, and I agree, Ron, and tomorrow supposedly our other officer will be released through all the paperwork and everything, so we will have the fourth officer. And I want to make this clear, if we would have one officer working, I would never pull that officer out of Meyersdale to send them to Salisbury. I would only send the additional officer to Salisbury. You know?
Watch how much time, I'm just saying, suppose you have two guys working and they're only gonna be working 6 hours that day. We can't go up there for 3 of it, we gotta take care of our own town first
Right.
and then worry about Salisbury.
And I don't think, again, Shane was there, I don't think they're looking for a huge
No.
amount. And they mentioned help with maybe some of their code, their ordinance enforcements. And one of our officers would fit in, I think, very well, who's from that area, to be able to go up and nose the people. And so,
Right.
but that's what, another thing that came up, is they're concerned about some of their ordinances, like we are down here. Jim?
Yeah, I wasn't quite finished. No.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Ron interrupted you.
I know.
He already said, I'm done.
Jenny?
I was just gonna say, it's good to have, I think it'd be good to have the footprint, maybe another officer from someplace, they think, wow, they got 2 places, maybe I'll go there. And I don't know about the legal part of it, whether they can,
Well, we have the agreement from before. I would imagine that could be just minorly altered,
Yeah,
and we're good
it's
to
an
go.
intermunicipal agreement, and it is, we're allowed to have that, and yeah, no, it'd be okay.
Jenny, your turn.
Now, with this, I mean, I'm all for it, but this is another thing. They're up there, something major happens down here, they can come back, right?
Right.
Or there won't be an issue with
Right.
that, then there's no,
Just in a couple minutes.
okay, then that seems to be a no-brainer, because it wouldn't be that far to come.
Right, and vice versa. If
Mhm.
something happened in Salisbury, we have this officer in Meyersdale, they can fly to Salisbury and with backup instead of waiting on the state police.
Yeah.
She was telling us there was a call, I'm not even sure what the call was about, but it was over an hour before the state police even got to Salisbury that night. Which, I mean, we run into the same thing here, but, and I agree with Ron. Like I said, I do agree with Ron. I would like to see our officers working more hours, but, all our officers have full-time jobs other places, so it would be nice if we could get an officer that didn't have a full-time job somewhere else, so. But,
Shane,
yeah,
I think the average response time, if I read that recently from I can't remember who put that out, but I think the average response time for PSP to the southern part of the county, I think it's over an hour and a half.
right, and that's what she was saying. And like I said, listen, our officers are doing a fabulous job. They're giving us time when they can. It's just, especially right now and here at the end of summer, they had a few things going on with their job, so it did limit them a little bit. But yeah, I expect the hours to pick up for us, for sure.
Clarence?
I'm in favor of it too. I think the issue we had last time was solved finally. And Ronnie remembers there was nights when there were 3 or 4 times a night. Well, once we quit patrolling up there, then the state police was up there 3 or 4 times a night. And finally they told this person, if we gotta come again, we're taking you with us. So then they took it before the judge, and the judge said, well, they're finally taking care of themselves, we have to let them go. So now they haven't been calling. But Ronnie knows that 3 or 4 times an evening we go there. So,
It sounds like everybody is in favor of moving forward. Shane, you can't obviously make a motion, but would you formulate how would you like the motion that you feel would be best that we can reply to Salisbury, our friends up in Salisbury?
Right, well, I mean, we just want to be afforded the opportunity to let them know that it looks like we would be on board, you know, with the $60 an hour, depending on what they are asking in return as far as hours.
If you want to make a motion, okay.
Also, you know.
Question, okay, we have a,
Right.
Oh, sorry.
go ahead. Motion, give me a second, then we'll do a question. Second, Jenny, question. Now we discuss. Okay, do you want to read back the motion, Patty, or don't you quite know what?
I think it's basically, we're gonna say, we make the motion that we allow the president and the mayor to continue dialogue with Salisbury Borough on potentially providing an intermunicipal agreement at the rate of $60 an hour.
And Jenny had seconded that. Let's do a roll call vote on that then. Please, Patty, when you get a chance.
Mr. Ackerman,
Yeah,
Mr. Bear,
yes.
Mr. Baker,
Yes.
Mrs. Nagy,
Yes.
Mr. Irwin,
Yes.
Mrs. Canarium,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Patty. And the final item, Mark, I'm going to let you respond to the letter which we received. Evidently, the mayor also received the same letter, as did, we found out at our meeting with Salisbury, the mayor and the president of the council in Salisbury regarding a burn ordinance. And you could speak to the letter, you were able to review it. And I know, I'll say this yet, we had just done a burn ordinance for the borough back around 2018 or 19. And it was my understanding that we were not able to limit or eliminate people from burning leaves or branches and wood. Now, they couldn't do laminated wood or fabric or rubbish. But could you please speak to the letter that we received here? Mayor Shane also received one from the DEP. I think, is it? Are you there, Mark?
Hello?
Yes. Did you hear what I said?
Yes, I heard you. I don't know what the hell's going on.
I think you had us muted, I think.
I don't know what the hell. Anyways, thank you, Shane, and I heard your little comment. It's so delightful. I might have a lot of physical issues, but my hearing is good.
Yeah.
So that letter was sent out, and it was sent out to almost every place in our region, evidently. And it's going after these low-lying, what they call low vapor, low pressure areas that seem to hold smoke and cause breathing / atmospheric issues for those people that have breathing issues, whether it be, COPD or whether it be asthma or whatever that might be. So that's why that letter was sent out. Now, the current burn ordinance we have, it doesn't restrict the burning of clean wood. Now, leaves, in the past, leaves were okay, but I'll tell you more and more, the state raises issues with burning leaves because of the clean air issues that come out of it and the breathing quality. The bigger issue, in talking with DEP briefly, that we're going to have to deal with is the current site that the borough has where things are deposited, okay, whether it's dirt or leaves or trees or branches. We're going to have to rethink how we do that because, number one, the current way we do it, we most likely would have to get a permit to do that. Number two, I don't think that they would let us get a permit because it's in a floodplain. Number three, I know it's always been there, but I'm just telling you. Number three, I don't know that we burn anything there, but they were pretty clear that we can't burn there. There's a difference between when you get away from a resident burning a small pile of, in other words, that burn ordinance is for people who are burning in a fire pit that are having like a campfire. They're not burning waste, okay? When we get to the point of burning brush in Pennsylvania, believe it or not, you need permits to actually burn brush and those things. And there's a whole setup that they require for air quality. So I do think that our burn ordinance meets what they want, but I think we need to take a good hard look at that area down there and possibly discontinue it for the mere fact of in the very near future, we're probably going to have issues with the state because that was brought up. And they claim, and I don't know that we do this, but they claim that that stuff has been burned down there before. There's been complaints. And I just kind of shielded that because I have never seen it happen, nor am I aware, and I don't want anybody to comment on that in open session. But I do think we need to take a look into how we're doing that.
Patty, could we put on the agenda for the Finance Committee, the burn ordinance and the Charles Street dump area? And we can discuss that maybe.
Why would the borough be discussing that to begin with? That's not our property.
Well, that's a good point.
That's municipal.
That is a good point.
And see, that's the other thing that I'm not sure of, because they brought it up to me as though that was the borough. I believe that's owned by the municipal authority. I didn't do an investigation into it. But I wanted to ask Patty that and I didn't get time, so I just heard her answer.
Yeah, I always assumed that it was the MMA owned it also. Okay, Mark, well, at least we could discuss the burn ordinance at our committee meetings and see if council wants to do anything with them. I'd prefer not to monkey around with it if we don't have to. But, and then if what we're saying is it's the MMA, then you're their attorney. You'll have to maybe bring this up at their session and see what they want to do. Then if it's their land and not ours. And I would let the DEP know that it's technically not the borough's. So, okay, any comment from council on that issue? We'll go around the table real quickly. Those are the three items. As far as I'm concerned, we have a committee meeting coming up Thursday night, October 3rd. And then our council meeting is October the 8th, Tuesday night, as always. Clarence, any final remarks on anything?
Is that property actually in the borough? The dumping?
I don't know.
Is it in the, so,
I think it's in the borough.
I believe it is.
Anything else, Clarence?
that's it.
Ginny, Tom,
Yeah.
Ron. I have nothing. Karen? Mayor?
We're all good.
Okay, if that's it, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn at about 7:33. Karen and Terry, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Again, thanks everybody for coming.